Kia ora, good morning. What time is it? It's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning. Excuse me, I'm sitting here having a coffee. I'm trying not to burp. Um, yeah, I mentioned in a post on Thursday that I was planning on doing this. And I was just talking to my boy. I've been talking to my sister. And like the future has been laid out in front of me. I can see it so clearly now. I can see it so clearly. I'm starting to make sense. I'm starting to understand my purpose. I'm starting to make sense to myself. Like I joke and I mess around and I'm like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm blah, blah, blah. But I realised yesterday, technically, what I've been doing in regards to my work in the political and government militarian arena is that I'm technically a political analyst. I'm technically a military analyst, and I get that from my dad. I am my father's daughter, um, and I'm making sense to myself, and I feel like what I've understood is that everything I've had to be since 2000 and technically 2013, but especially 2016, everything that I've had to be from then until now was not only to heal and discover myself and step into my power as a scientist and a writer and a creator, finding my purpose, healing myself from trauma, all that sort of thing, but to move mountains, to pave the way to clear the path of all the obstacles that were seen and unseen standing in my way. And it's required me to have to dig deep and play specific roles and play the game. And I've been thinking about it because, I'm sitting here planning a future with my sister. Her and my nephews are getting ready to give up their lives to come and join me. And I've been looking at land, I've been looking at property, I've planted so many seeds now, and I'm ready to harvest everything that I've grown. And I've been sitting, going through it all, and I've been thinking about Amber and how, the last thing she said to me before, because typical Amber, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but Auntie, I'm getting ready to die now, but I just want you to know that I love you and I want you to live your life. Just go out there and live your life. And that's exactly what I plan to do. I'm not afraid anymore. People are starting to show an interest in what it is that I'm creating. People are starting to want to be a part of what it is that I'm creating. And that is letting me know, one, I'm succeeding in removing all the blocks and barriers in my way because I'm finally being understood by the right people. And two, I finally found the right frequency. I finally found the me that I'm meant to be for the purpose of drawing to me the right people who want to be a part of what I'm doing. And the fact that my sister is willing to give up her life in New Zealand and bring her boys in that, and her boys come with me. They want to give up their life to be a part of what it is that I'm building, and that's an honour for me. And so, I'm sitting here taking it all in as I'm causing trouble for a lot of people, moving mountains to show me with absolute clarity where it is I'm supposed to go. And I'm thinking about everything I've had to do. And then I was thinking about, when I get out of here and I hit the road, when I do my radio shows, and I know that I want to do radio. I really feel like I was born to do radio. But I want to write, and I want to put all my stories and books and products and everything. I'm ready to put it all out there. I had crippling agoraphobia, which I don't anymore. I had low self-esteem and no confidence, which I don't anymore. And it's like I've chipped away at everything that was cementing me in place. And now I'm getting ready to fly. And it's exciting. And I'm nervous. But now that I know I'm going to have my big sister and some of my nephews and that with me, it's like everything's lining up for me to get out into the world and put it all out there. So I'm just having a sip of my drink. I've been protecting my little seeds and plants and bushes and trees and crops, but now I'm ready to bring other people in and let them feed on the bounty, because I know who to give it to, I know who to share it with, and I know how now. I've been through the biggest, toughest lessons over the last 10 years, but it's been absolutely worth it, because regardless of whether people believe me or not, or whether people think I'm sane or not, my work has made a huge impact in the lives of people like my king and Vladimir Putin, and even people like Tucker Carlson and that, bless them, the ICC. These are people that are never going to forget me. The impact that I've left on them, dragging them into my orbit, they're not going to forget me when I get out of here and build my school. But it's been 100% necessary, because over the course of having to clear my name and do my own investigation and prove everything that I said about the people that came after me, in order to prove it all, I fell down a rabbit hole that became so much more than just me clearing my name for what Rocio and Martin and my students and that had said about me, the things that Chris had said about me. It became so much more than that. As a apparent political and military analyst, although I said the Greeks would have called me an oracle, because that's what oracles did, I uncovered a lot of things about all the people in power, all the billionaires, all the tech giants. I uncovered things about people in positions of political power that are so dark. They had to come to light in order for me to clear the path. And in turn, if I've done it right, it's going to be holding them responsible for all the bad things they've been doing in the world for however many decades and centuries. And then I get to put my sword down and walk away and never have to deal with it again. Other than I'm sitting here thinking, bloody hell, I'm like the girl version of James Bond. And then I thought, hang on a minute, James Bond. I need to do a spy movie. And I had been, remember I was talking about the Quantum Menace sagas for the radio? Saturday night radio, I was going to dedicate to men, dads and granddads and uncles, and sit around their radio, computer, whatever, and listen to my radio dramas. And Gabriel and I, my youngest, had come up with this whole storyline. And I was asking him questions. I was saying, technically, in the war, in World War Two, because we were talking about the Quantum Menace helping the RAF in Ashbourne pull off manoeuvres in regards to the distraction of the Hindenburg disaster. And he was giving me advice on, realistically, what planes would they, if we were going to slip some planes through a portal, if she was going to crack open, a time portal, what planes would they use to come in and shoot the Nazis down that were sneaking up on the east coast of America and that? And then he was like, well, that would be mosquitoes. And it would be this and it would be that. And then I was like, okay, technically in a neighbourhood the size of mine and the size of Wakefield, how many spies would they have had living in a town this big? And I was, so we were writing this whole thing. But now I'm sitting there and I thought, I'm not going to do the Quantum Menace sagas. I'm going to do my version of James Bond instead. I'm going to turn the Quantum Menace sagas into, I don't know what I'm going to call it. I've put 00Heaven, but I'm not going to call it 00Heaven because I'm not going to rip off any names or anything like that. But I need to come up with my version of a spy series, and do them over the radio. And then, because these are all things that I can do before my school is built. And then once my school is built, when it's just, a bunch of us voice actors coming together to do, I'm going to need people that can speak all sorts of languages. And I, I'm not going to tell, my James Bond is very different to what you would be expecting, but it guarantees that, like with every James Bond, it's never the same actor, but I'm not going into detail for the nitsy gritty, as Pearl would say. But I was working with my son yesterday morning in regards to a scene from the Quantum Menace 1, The Fourth Son. I've been telling him the storyline for that, and he's been helping me with that. He's been absolutely brilliant with it. And so it's just encouraged me, because I thought if he's helping me, if he's joining in, then I've created something, because he's not the sort of person that would join in if he didn't like what I was creating, you know. So I'm thinking between the plot line to the Quantum Menace 1, The Fourth Son, and everything that I've been reflecting on, I'm going to take the Quantum Menace sagas and turn it into the radio stories for Saturdays for men. That's going to be our version of James Bond. And all I need is, internet and actors and people who can do sound editing and all of that for now. And I can do that when I'm on the road, and we can all do our parts, as individuals, and then get the editor to put the whole thing together during the week, and then play the episode on Saturday. And then my version of James Bond, he can do all sorts of things. He's basically a spy for the Ministry of Souls. Because look, like I've had to play the spy. I've had to be a spy. I've had to sit and observe and document and pay attention and research and be covert and subversive, and you know, I've had to wear many hats in order to protect myself and get justice for people like Vladimir Putin, and you know, for the victims of Epstein, and for Great Britain because of Starmer, and for the Americans because of Trump, and all of it, you know. And I've had to play many roles to many people that were brought into my life for me to figure out, are you friend or foe? So it's like, man, turn that into radio series, turn that into a radio series, and then when I'm ready to make the movies, do my version of James Bond. He'll have nothing to do with the Quantum Menace. He'll be his own thing, but he will work for the Ministry of Souls. You know, 007, how he worked for, was it MI5 or MI6, or, you know, Secret Service? The Ministry of Souls will have their own Secret Service. I mean, because technically Draco, TC, and the Wolfman, they're undercover. They go undercover, but they, you know, they work for the PD, the Moss PD. So instead of MI5, it'll be MOS, Ministry of Souls. Hang on, having a sip. But he's going to be like the master of disguises. And I was saying to my son, when I make the Quantum Menace 1, I'm going to have to get like a munitions expert, a gunsmith, and a, you know, like a military trained survival expert to come on board as consultants, because I want everything to be realistic, because the fourth son is my version of Rambo and, you know, Commando, and, you know, it's like my action movie. It's my version of an action movie. It basically is the prelude to the Quantum Menace stepping into his mutant powers. So, yeah, so I need to come up with a character. He's probably going to be in his 30s. It's not going to be the sort of thing where, you know, he's got a different hoe every movie. There might be some love interest stuff in there, especially like when it comes to, you know, how they use femme fatales, your Mataharis and all of that. Um, that will be in there, but it's not going to be all, you know, where he's in bed with a different woman every other night sort of thing. But I've been working on a couple of plot lines. The first one being, I was thinking the Count of Monte Cristo kind of thing, but it being set in either somewhere like Venice or Monaco. The first movie, the first storyline, being set somewhere around there, around the Riviera or something like that, where yeah, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go into it, but I need to come up with a name for his character. It needs to be, you know, Ian Fleming. James Bond is such a cool name. I need to come up with a name like that. And then I mean, how cool is it gonna be when I find the actors to become the iconic Ministry of Soul Secret Service guy? Um, so yeah, I just, what name's as catchy as James Bond? Bond, James Bond, MOS, Moss. I work for Moss. So, and I just thought, well, I've technically had to be a spy, so um, I can write about stuff, like I can do this. If I said to my son, if I can write an opera and compose music without having any experience whatsoever as being as a musician or composer, having to, I said, because my son said, I said to him, like I never even liked a lot of classical and opera, and he said, I thought you liked classical music, and I said, no, I did like classical music, but I only liked like Tchaikovsky and Mozart and Beethoven and that. But in composing my opera and like the Amber Rose, it introduced me to like Brahms and Schubert and Rachmaninoff and people that I would never have thought to entertain before, and it made me fall in love with classical music in a way that just completely inspired me. It opened my mind right up to my potential. So I figured if I can write an opera and a rock apocalypse zombie musical and the Amber Rose and write jingles for like the Dear Satan Claus and not well, I did write songs for the Dear Satan Claus, write jingles for Save My Soul and Loose Lips and all of that. I can write a spy novel. I can write a spy movie, and then all we have to do is write it, get my writers on board, get myself my writers, and then write little radio episodes every week to play over my little online radio station, the Fire Station. And that's what I'm calling my radio station, the Fire Station, and record it all, play it every Saturday, and then when I've put down roots, we can turn it into movies. And even if it was just that, we turn it into TV movies for my streaming service. For now. So I need to come up with a catchy name for my spy. And then I need to come up with a name for the actual, you hear the name James Bond and you just know. You hear 007 and you just know. So, yeah, I need to come up with a name. So I'll keep you posted. And then it was like, how James Bond has a different singer do the theme tune to the movie? Should I do that as well? Or should I just leave it to the introduction, for the radio series? But I just love the idea of dads getting a beer with their sons, however old they are, the grandsons and all that, girls as well, obviously. But it's just that, remember I put that video up last year. My boys and I were on the bus. I'll put a link to it in the description box. My boys and I were on the bus coming back to the flat. I'd picked them up in town, and there were these men having a conversation behind us about how they missed the days of radio. And he was saying, I used to love sitting in front of the radio listening to the stories and that. And I said to the boys, oh my God, that's a sign. So I said, because I'm writing radio stories. And I took that as a sign, because they were saying, yeah, God, I remember we used to look forward to sitting in front of the radio and hearing the stories and that, because that's what I used to do every Sunday morning when I was a little girl. My siblings and I, all 7 of us, Mum would be, Sunday morning, she'd be getting up, getting everyone's breakfast ready, and we'd go into the bedroom and jump on the bed. Dad would turn the radio on, and we'd sit and listen to Sunday morning children's stories. The little engine, the little engine that could, and Bad Jelly the Witch, and I can't remember what it was called, but that one I was singing, I'm a little fire engine, Flick is my name, they won't let me put out fires, isn't that a shame? One day I'll be big and strong to fight every flame. When you want to fire out quick, call a little engine, call a little engine, call a little engine flick. That one. All those sort of kid stories, and I want to bring that back, which is why, Sunday morning is the grandmother tree. Remember, I've got the jingle for the grandmother tree. You'll see the post of my plushy baby. My son Gabriel and I wrote the jingle for it. And yeah, so the grandmother tree is kind of like children's story hour for Sunday mornings. And Saturday nights is going to be for the dads, for the men, for the granddads and that. And I just love the idea of them getting like a drink, whatever it is, and maybe like a whiskey or a brandy or a sherry or a beer or a glass of wine or like a nice cup of tea and, some little shortbread bickies or something, and just turning the radio on, be it internet or, because I'm really hoping I could go on proper radio, but I'm happy to do internet radio, which again was my son's idea, and just sitting and hearing it come on, and then, the spy stories. Because technically, the time jumping detective, which is my version of Doctor Who, we could do radio series versions of that as well. A lot of my TV stuff, a lot of my movies and that could be turned into radio stories, and with my version of Doctor Who, the time jumping detective, and what used to be the Quantum Menace sagas, which will now be my version of James Bond, they could absolutely be turned into movies and radio stories. The Night of the Black Sun is going to be performed on stage, but also broadcast over the radio as well. So I've always had a love of radio. I've always had a love of doing radio. And even though, I'm going to write and do voices for my characters and all that sort of thing, I just love doing radio. I just want to do what I love to do. That's what I was just saying to my son. Amber said, go out and live. Just go out there and live your life. And I just want to do what I love to do. And for me, it's like writing and creating, but doing radio as well. I want to do talk back, and I want to tell stories, and, I want to bring people's imaginations to life, doing my little investigations and putting it out on the radio first before we put the video out. Feed people imagination again, get them away from computers and laptops and consoles and that, and just get back to using their imagination again, and getting the right people on board to come and be my voice actors and my writers and my sound people, and my editors. I said to my sister, when we get to America, I'll employ someone to be our driver so that she doesn't have to worry about driving, so she can just soak in the experience of New England. I was bombarding her with video footage of, Vermont and New Hampshire and upstate New York and Massachusetts and Maine and all that, Rhode Island. And I said, this is where we'll start. Sleepy Hollow, Salem. I said, we'll start there and we'll just drive around. And I said, and I've got a few places in mind that I want to check out to, turn into my school. But I said, and then if I can't find anything there, then we'll head over to like South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, that sort of thing, and Colorado. As long as it snows, it has to snow. And I said, I know, like South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, blah, 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 are very mountainous. I won't have the snowy mountains on the East Coast, but I'll have all the forests and stuff. And they still have bears and wolves and all that around there, so I can still deal with my conservation program. So my sister and I started making plans. and it's getting exciting. You know, we've started putting, the wheels are starting to turn. So, you know, I'm getting ready to move on. And it's just exciting. I've finally figured myself out. I'm being a bit of a political analyst and a bit of a military analyst. And, you know, I've done a bit of psychology and I've done a bit of engineering and I've done a lot of physics and all of that. But it's like now I make sense. I finally make sense. What I've been doing this whole time. There's actual names for it. And I said I should rent myself out because, you know, when I've been doing my analysation of politics and, you know, military stuff, my accuracy level when I bring my physics into it is to the point where this is why people aren't happy with me and they're switching my phone off. They switched my phone off yesterday, and I can tell you now they'll regret it now. You know, with my the laws of convex linear reversion. Wow, that came in like a bolt of lightning. That came in like that was more than a bomb drop that they had on them. What I've been doing, so yeah, there's going to be a lot of people out there not very happy with me. They might not even let me put this video out, to be honest. But it's only about a movie, about a spy. So I need to come up with a name. I'll let you know the name. And I'll put the link in for the video I made about the discussion about the men on the bus. I'll also put in the link for the jingle that my son and I came up with for the Grandmother Tree Storytime Sunday matinee. I'm so excited, I can't wait. My boys grew up on Bad Jelly the Witch and that, so it'll give you an idea of the sort of thing that, you know, kids will be listening to. I just like the idea of them laying in bed listening to the stories early Sunday morning. You know, put them on about 6 o'clock to about 8. You know, kids get up early and they can sit and have their breakfast or sit and wait for their breakfast, just like me and my siblings did when we were kids. And yeah, it's exciting. It's like, holy crap, I'm really doing this. Like, this is actually happening. This is for real, for real. It's like I'm seeing the clearing. Yeah, the mountain's been moved and I'm seeing what's behind it, and it's like, yep, that's where I'm headed. Finally. So it's getting exciting. And now I've got an entourage. I've got people that are like, yep, I'm going to pack up my life and come and be with you. That's how I know I'm heading in the right direction in my life with what I'm to do, because this time people want to come with me. They're prepared to give up their entire lives to come and be a part of what I'm creating, and that's a huge sign for me, because it means they can see where I'm going to and they want to be a part of the journey. That's a huge compliment. It means I'm on the right track. So I'll keep you posted when I come up with a name. I need a name for my spine. I need a name for the series. So I'll keep you posted. Have a beautiful day. Ka kite anō. Mwah.